Test, test. Can you hear me, David?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Thank you. Thank you.
Does one of you want to text Joyce, or I can?
closer, would it help if we wanted to hot stuff over from Zoom camera?
No, that will cause an echo.
Because
The sound comes through my laptop.
Yeah, Joyce is on her way too, so. Still beat Joyce. Can you come here? Yes, I thought Andrew was coming, but I need to. But I guess I need to share this.
Yeah,
If he's not here.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Sure did forget.
Thank you very much.
Party can't start with that, yes.
All right, we'll call the special meeting of the city of Clear Lake order at the Clear Lake City Hall Council Chambers, 14050 Olympic Drive, Clear Lake, California, June 2nd at 3:07 p.m. First item is a roll call, please. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Overton.
Here.
Councilmember Kramer.
Here.
Councilmember Claffey.
Here.
Vice Mayor Purdock.
Here.
Mayor Slutin.
Here. Pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we go to the public hearing. Consideration of an appeal of the city of Clear Lake hearing officer's order denying an appeal of an order to abate for the property located at 14525 Lakeshore Drive in accordance with the Clear Lake Municipal Code, Chapter 10. Mr. Flora.
I think we'll have Deputy City Attorney Pucci give a little bit of an update to the council on the process, and then we'll take it from there.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Do we have the appellant on Zoom? Madam Clerk?
There is one call-in listener from a 650 number. I'm not seeing it specifically.
Madam, could you identify yourself on Zoom?
Hello, everyone. This is Rupa Shekhar here on the phone.
Wait, thank you.
Okay, that is the appellant, sorry.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a brief procedural introduction. I'm sure you'll hear more from staff on this, just how this hearing will proceed. On or about March 23rd, 2022, a notice to abate certain property conditions located at 14525 Lakeshore Drive was issued by the city. The appellant timely appealed that notice to abate on or about, and that appeal went to your hearing officer, which is designated as the city manager, Alan Flora. On or about April 20th, 2022, an appeal hearing was held before the hearing officer, Mr. Flora. Subsequent to that, on May 9th, a decision was issued by the hearing officer denying the appeal. Following that issuance of the denial, the appellant timely appealed that decision to your body as the final decision maker. And so before you here today is an appeal of Mr. Flora's decision denying the appeal. We'll handle this as we would any other public hearing, keeping in mind that you are a quasi-judicial body sitting as in a judicial role. And so procedurally, we will turn it to staff who is represented on Zoom by Attorney Greg Palmer with my office. He will be representing staff. I will be providing legal advice to the decision-making body here today. After staff, council will have an opportunity to ask questions of staff. We will then turn to the appellant's opportunity to present her side. Any questions would follow of the appellant by council. Appropriately then, if the mayor decides, we would then turn and open to public comment briefly on this matter, and then we would bring it back for further discussion and decision by the council. At that time, should the mayor feel it appropriate, the mayor could ask for some closing statements or some clarifying information at that time. Any questions on procedure, Mr. Mayor or council?
Sounds good to me.
I'll submit with that.
So it's staff report.
We'll turn to staff.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My name is Greg Palmer, as introduced to you on Zoom by Mr. Pucci. I'm a lawyer with the law offices of Jones Mayor. My role is primarily to represent cities in their code enforcement division. So I'm going to be assisting Mr. Lee Lambert in presenting the case to you. Obviously, I'd like to be there in person, but I'm here on Zoom. So Mr. Lambert and I had a conversation yesterday to prepare him, since he's going to have to take most of the laboring or in presenting the case to you. Mr. Pucci, is Mr. Lambert there in the room?
Yes, he is.
Okay, so this hearing, I appreciate the brief review by Mr. Pucci. All of that is correct. I would only add that this hearing is being conducted under Clearlake Municipal Code Section 10-3.5. That particular section outlines your duties as the decision maker following the hearing officer's decision. The hearing officers, there should have been a series of exhibits submitted to you prior, and Mr. Lambert either has before going live on this hearing or will at the time of his testimony add to those exhibits. I just want to orient you to what's out there. Exhibits 1 through 14 were the exhibits that Mr. Lambert used during the hearing before the city manager, before the hearing officer. And then exhibit 15, as already outlined by Mr. Pucci, is the decision of the hearing officer, the one from which an appeal was taken. Exhibit 16 through 24 are new exhibits in terms of the appellant's actual formal appeal. There was a written appeal request that supplemented her request for an appeal hearing. There were many pictures which Mr. Lambert will go through during his testimony. And then finally, the last exhibit, 24, is the body-worn camera video, what I assume was a body-worn camera video on Mr. Lambert's chest of the hearing, of the recorded hearing before the city manager. So with that, I would like to ask the city clerk to swear Mr. Lambert in for his testimony, please.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly state under penalty of perjury that the evidence that you shall give in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. All right, Mr. Mayor, may I begin?
All right, just a point of order here. This is, we had another matter come up procedurally. The appellant has would like to make a formal request to continue this hearing. She is present, and so we'll take that procedural matter up first before we start testimony on this case. So Ms. Shekar, if you'd like to make your request to council, you can approach.
Could you come up to the microphone, please?
Thank you everyone for giving me the opportunity to come by and speak here. Really appreciate it. I would like to request the continuance, if that means that I can request for reschedule of the appeal. The reason because I have been rushed this week because of my personal situation, and I would like to have the real opportunity to become prepared for the appeal process, if that is an opportunity for me.
Okay, thank you. Anybody from the council wants to?
So have you done work on this already?
Yes, we have. I started the work. I can share some of the evidence today, and then I would like to come prepared, better prepared for the next appeal, so that I have a complete opportunity to kind of share my evidence and my story well prepared, I would say. I didn't really have a time to create PowerPoint presentations and things like that. That's how I would like to operate. I'm not just walk in. I have evidence with me in terms of my architectural design and the structural engineering report and some of the work that I have done. But I would like to have an opportunity to come well prepared than rushing through the process.
Thank you.
So you do have engineering reports, because that was been my concern here. So you have engineering reports?
I finished the structural engineering inspection report in the month of November. And Scott Bennett Engineering is the one who completed the inspection. They gave us certain steps to follow, starting with completing the as-is plan. I've completed the as-is plan. I've submitted the copy to the city for reference. And after the as-is plan is completed, the next step is to get the architectural design, which I'm working on right now. And I have a copy of it to share it with you all. I wouldn't call it as 100% complete because it's still in progress. And within a month or so, I should have the complete architecture report ready with engineering stamp done, so that we can have the permit process for the entire renovation in progress.
Thank you.
To be kicked off.
So time you're requesting is?
a month and a half to finish my engineering report, complete engineering report, and apply for the complete work permit. But right now I have the roof design because I think Mr. Lambert had suggested me that I should go top down, outside in, and I have the roof architecture, the plans ready right now to apply for permit today.
So just, Mr. Mayor, just a point of clarification here, that the request that was received in writing to the city had requested approximately a week's long continuance of this hearing to further prepare for it. I don't think it would be really appropriate to get into the weeds in terms of what she has or has not done, what the appellant has or has not done. That would be the course of the appeal hearing, which would have to go forward anyway. So I think that it would be wise for council to simply consider as a procedural matter whether it wanted to continue this hearing for very short order if staff has no other position on the timing of it, and then we would move forward with the hearing or proceed today.
Let me ask you this question. You said, I'm sorry. You said a month and a half. Our council was saying weeks.
I think it's the two different things. I can clarify
So
what Mr. Attorney is saying.
What's the absolute minimum time that you're going to need when to get everything, which I won't get down in the weeds about, but everything that the staff has asked you for?
A month and 2 weeks max
Okay, thank you.
with the permit in hand.
And then
After that, the work starts. I'm actually roof work can get started next week if they grant me the permit with the documentations that I already have.
I want to make a comment. Madam, you've had numerous opportunities to get all these plans done over a year, and I'm not inclined to have a continuance of this hearing.
That's your decision, I understand.
Councilman Overton?
Okay. I'm not objecting to, I know they've had some hard times and some bad luck on doing some of these things. Options is if we continue with the hearing, what is our options for abatement? Can we postpone it for them to approve? If we went through with the hearing and then could we give them a certain amount of time to come back and prove that and then not go through with the abatement process? Because, I mean, I don't want to, go through the abatement process if they actually follow through, but it seems like we've had some hard times here with this going through. So what's our options on going through with the public hearing? And then is there a way to stipulate they have so much time? And if they don't prove, then we follow through with the abatement?
So the only bright line parameters here would be that if we're going to conduct the hearing on the appeal, that you make a decision on the appeal, upholding or reversing the city manager's decision. Beyond that, you could tack onto it whatever you wanted to in terms of parameters of enforcement, timing of enforcement, and direction to staff. So I think procedurally, the point would be to get to a decision on this appeal. And then if the council as a majority wanted to add some conditions on to the granting or denial of that appeal, you certainly have that discretion.
Okay, Councilman, Vice Mayor Purdock.
thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. All I've heard is you ask for a continuance. I don't have a reason or an understanding of why we need a continuance. Typically in matters like this, there would need to be some type of arguable reason. You met with Mr. Flora, you made your appeal with him, and apparently there was enough time for that to be prepared for that appeal. This is the normal course of how we proceed. So I suppose what is compelling? Why do we need to now continue this?
I wanted to bring my team in with me today for the appeal process, but I couldn't get everybody's schedule aligned because of I had 8 days before the hearing date that I could make the arrangements. But I understand it's already, decision is all in your hand. I'm not forcing anybody to make any decision one way or the other, but I just want to make sure that I state my statement here and I should be heard. That's all. You've given me the opportunity and I'm happy with that.
Thank you. Councilman Claffey, you have any comments on this?
No, I don't see that as a compelling reason. I think 8 days is a satisfactory amount of time to be prepared for this, considering it's the second hearing on the matter. I would be fine moving forward.
Thank you. So are we, do we need to vote on whether we?
Sorry, we don't certainly need a motion. You have a request on the table to continue this hearing. If we would just want to do a simple roll call vote on a decision to deny that request, we can certainly do that.
Okay. Who wants to make a motion?
We don't need a motion, right?
You could make one, or you don't need to have one if we just get
We just need
consensus as to proceed forward.
Okay, I believe the consensus is to continue with the hearing and deny your continuation, ma'am.
Okay, no worries. So should I continue to present my case or?
We're going to procedurally, we go to staff first. So,
Okay, all right, I'll wait for.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you
Shakar.
for the opportunity. Appreciate it.
all right, Mr. Lambert.
Lambert.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and council members.
Can we make sure that we swear in the witness, please?
We did.
We did already.
Okay, I didn't see that on the recording.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Lambert, if you can please address the council, tell them what your experience, what your position is with the city, what your experience and training is in code enforcement in general, or any other special training you have, and then present the case as we discussed yesterday.
So I've been in code enforcement from 2006 to 2009 with the city of Clearlake. Took a brief stint to animal control and then came back in 2014. I've been here since then as the code enforcement supervisor. Was trained by previous officers and supervisors. I'm certified through KCO, through the state California Association of Code Enforcement Officers, and have my 832 post. And I've received different trainings through KCO. So you guys all have the evidence packets that were given to you on your tablets.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go through
No,
everything since you have it there.
We don't all have that. It's the same stuff that's on our package in the computer. Yeah, you want to look at this? We have it.
All right, so an overview of the evidence. City council, staff, and the appellant have been provided all evidence is submitted to the hearing officer on 4/20 of 2022. This includes the case facts and exhibits 1 through 14. City council, staff, and the appellant have been provided additional exhibits 15 through 24, which includes the hearing officer's order, the appeal submitted by Rupa Shakar, photographs, and a compact disc of the hearing held by the hearing officer. This case was originally opened on December 26, 2018, and has been active for approximately 3.5 years. From December 16, 2018 through April 29, 2021, the previous property owner made no attempt to reach compliance. An order to abate was issued to the previous property owner on April 29, 2021, and still that property owner failed to voluntarily comply. On June 15, 2021, an advertisement for bid to demolish and abate the property was published. And on June 16, 2021, the following day, staff was notified that the property deed had transferred to Rupa Shakar and Vasudev Churlapalli. On July 15, 2021, at a public hearing before you, staff asked that the city manager be authorized to execute a contract for the abatement of the property. After hearing evidence provided by staff and testimony from Rupa Shakar, council decided to take no action and allow Ms. Shakar some time to voluntarily comply. On July 27, 2021, staff met with the property owner, at which time Ms. Shakar provided a timeline for when voluntary compliance would be achieved. On 7/27/2021, staff met with the property owner. Oh, I don't know why that printed twice. At that time, she presented a timeline that extended through December of 2021. On January 3rd, 2022, Ms. Shakar submitted a new timeline to reach compliance. The new timeline extended past August of 2022, approximately 8 months past the original timeline presented. In addition, still no compliance has been achieved. On January 19th of this year, a letter of extension was issued requiring all building permits be applied for and issued prior to 2/28 of 2022 for any additional time to voluntarily comply to be granted. As of March 1st of this year, no building permits had been applied for or issued. On March 23rd of this year, on behalf of staff, the city attorney issued a final notice of violation and order to abate. And on April 4th, Ms. Shakar submitted a request for appeal of the order to abate. On April 20th, the City of Clearlake hearing officer held the appeal hearing, at which time staff and the appellant presented evidence and testimony. And on May 9th of this year, the hearing officer made his order and denied the appeal.
Thank you, Mr. Lambert. You and I spoke yesterday about some pictures that you've taken along the way. You and your staff has taken a long way in investigating these things. Do you have those pictures up on the PowerPoint as well?
I do not have those on the PowerPoint. They're in the packets provided, and
Okay.
they're provided to council.
All right. Do you have Exhibit 18? It's a set of 8 photographs.
I do.
That generally appear to be the exterior, both front and back of the building. You have those there?
I do.
Would you explain to the council, orient them to what's depicted in these photographs? You don't have to go photograph by photograph, but give us a general description of what's depicted and the importance of these photographs, please.
I would say an exterior of a commercial building in disrepair, fenced off with security fencing, windows boarded up, an eyesore and nuisance to the community, still in the general state as it was when Mr. Kerr purchased the property, other than the boarding and the fencing.
And these pictures, Mr. Lambert, appear to span a period of time from like late 2021 to April 2022. Is that correct?
Correct.
And is the property generally in the same condition today, sir?
It is.
What use was?
Can I just pause for a second, Mr. Palmer?
Sure.
Would council like to look at those photographs? Or
Yeah.
they are in your packet that we have been provided, but if you wouldn't mind, Mr. Lambert, just circulating that amongst up to the,
They have a paper one up there.
okay. Just give us a minute for council to look over those.
Sure, tell me when to go.
So Exhibit 18 is 4 pages of photos.
Can I have an objection here?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Oh, can I have an objection here or should I wait for my trouble?
I have to wait.
Technically, Mr. Mayor, it probably would be appropriate to hear that if it's related to something the council is currently looking at
Okay, go ahead.
procedurally.
Mr. Lambert, could you step aside first?
In order for this hearing to be fair, the facts shared by the officer should be factual and realistic. The picture that has been shared so far is a picture of 1 year old or 2 years old or 2.5 years old, 3 years old. The pictures which is in the evidence is outdated, and all the latest pictures that I have shared are none of them are in the evidence packet. And it is not a fair hearing because it's a one-sided. That's one thing. And also Mr. Lambert said the condition of the property is the same as it was 2 years back. That's a false statement. I have made improvements to it. If you look at all the evidence, I can't go back to the last pictures, but any pictures, if you look at page number 42, where is the comparable picture of the current state of the property of these pictures right now? I don't want to be in a situation when it is one-sided. If they have a picture from 3/18 to 2021, I want the same spot picture taken this month. And this is one of the reasons I said I need to come prepared, because I don't know what kind of pictures goes in here. It was not shared with me before. It is shared right now. This really paints a very bad picture of the property. And I also want to make sure that everybody in the city understands that when I bought the property, yes, I gave a plan, and that plan was for repair. couple of months down the lane.
Were you aware of all the code violations when you bought
I
the
was
property?
not aware of the code violation
I
that has
think then
been,
you need to talk to the previous owner and your
I
realtor.
understand that.
So, okay, so just to keep things on track, your objection to the pictures has been noted. Mr. Palmer, do you have anything to comment before I?
Yes, that's not a legal objection. That's argument.
So the council has heard your objection, Mr. Mayor. There are no strict procedural rules of evidence in this matter. And so if you find that the information being presented is relevant to the council's discussion, then the council can accept it. Ms. Shekar is free to present any updated photographs or her own evidence when it comes down to her presentation.
But I don't have the pictures with me. That's why I wanted to come prepared, but I will wait for my turn.
Thank you. Okay, move on. Mr. Lambert.
Let me know when you're ready, Mr. Lambert.
So if you actually look at the first photo of Exhibit 18, that photo is dated April of this year.
To what previous use was this building made, Mr. Lambert?
The prior use was a restaurant.
And do you have an idea how long ago the restaurant was actually operating?
It was closed down in early 2018, I believe.
And then if you go to the next exhibit, Exhibit 19, that's a set of four photographs, what appear to be of the interior of the building. Orient the council to what is depicted in those photographs, please.
In these photos is deteriorated, damaged walls. Actually, this is the ceiling. Holes in the rafters, missing sheetrock.
Okay, thank you. Exhibit 20 is a series of 8 photographs, again, appear to be interior. What's depicted in those?
This is Exhibit 20. So this is the kitchen area that's deteriorated, hadn't been used in a long time. The flooring, missing flooring, damaged flooring, the ceiling, again, open beams, no sheetrock. And that's throughout the whole large area of the building.
And same thing with regard to Exhibit 21, I think a set of 4 photographs.
Yes, 21 is, yes, depicts the same.
Okay, and 22?
22 was mold in the bathroom areas.
That's depicted by those black or brown spots we see in the photographs.
Correct.
And then 23 is another set of 8 photographs. What's depicted there?
23 is the boarding up of access points, 2 access points in the rear where trespassers had been getting in before. Those had been secured. And then some trash and debris on the exterior. And then, let's see, just some more junk and debris.
So based upon your training experience and being in this property, let me ask you this. Have you been in this property multiple times, sir?
Yes.
And has it materially changed in the last 3 years?
There have been little changes. A back portion of the building, which was collapsing, has been taken down, and there was some trash and debris removed. They'd started doing some testing at the front on the siding and stucco, but just left that with a couple holes in it, and then the windows and doors have been boarded up.
Is it the city's contention through you with your training and experience that this building is in such condition that it needs to be demolished?
That's correct.
Is there any way, based upon your training and experience, that a rehabilitation of this building, in your experience, is viable?
It's always possible. It's just a matter of how much money you have to put into something.
And based upon the amount of money it might take, it may not be viable.
Correct.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Okay. Any questions from staff? Councilman Kramer.
Yes, Officer Lambert. Are there any photographs of any of beyond the first floor that were taken after Mr. Checkler purchased the property? The inside specifically? I know it looks to me like all these photographs are March of 2020, 2021.
Not presented in evidence, but there are some, yes.
Any reason that they weren't presented in evidence as well?
Yeah, maybe I should answer that if I could, May, perhaps. The council should be aware, I suppose, that this is an appeal from the hearing officer's decision. The hearing officer's hearing was done in April of this year. His decision was in May of this year. Ms. Shekar has appealed from that decision. So when you have a second hearing following a first hearing, the facts are kind of frozen based upon what the situation was presented to the hearing officer, because it's the hearing officer's decision from which the appeal was taken. So to state it even more directly, the condition of the property at this point is actually logically irrelevant, okay, except in terms of whether or not you want to do equity, because your decision is an appeal from the hearing officer's decision. So you have to look at what the hearing officer had and make a decision based upon that, whether to uphold it or modify it or overturn it. Obviously, Ms. Shekar can come in here and say, I've completely renovated the property and I don't know why we're here. The current condition is certainly relevant for her to bring up, but it really isn't for us.
Any more questions from staff? Mr. Claffey, any additional comments?
No questions at this time. Thank you.
Great. I have a question. We see in the documents that you provided that a engineering firm called Bennett Engineering have a report dated November 7th. Was there anything in that report that was completed or partly completed or addressed prior to the initial hearing?
From where I'm standing, I would say no, because no permits have been issued to complete that work. So if it was done illegally.
Great, thank you. Okay, any more questions from staff? Not at this time. Okay, where did our city manager? He left. All right, so it's now time for the appellant to make her case.
Ms. Shekar.
Can I share some of the pictures with the council members? I don't have all the pictures, but I have the pictures, some of the pictures that I brought in to share. And I finished the inspection report and I submit the pictures of interiors and exteriors to the city, and city is not sharing those pictures with you all today, but I just want to make sure that I share some of the pictures that I have. Compared to the pictures Mr. Lambert shared.
Ms. Shekar, will you provide a copy of those photographs to Mr. Lambert? And I'll re-echo from a procedural perspective, Mr. Palmer's point, which is well taken procedurally, which is that technically what the council is supposed to be considering is what the hearing officer considered at the time of his decision. Now, any evidence that Ms. Shekar wants to present of conditions that might have been changed between that time and this time would really only be relevant to a modification or some time the council wanted to grant, or as Mr. Palmer put it, equitable considerations in terms of what the council does after a decision on the appeal. So just a procedural note for council. So,
ma'am, the question is, everything that you have done since the hearing is not relevant.
There's nothing was done after the hearing.
Okay.
And whatever I've shared was all from before the month of March and before the hearing with the manager before.
But none of the issues that were addressed in the November 7th meeting of your civil engineer were completed.
It
because
was
there is no building permit issued on any of those issues. Is that correct?
Benedict's, the engineering report states a couple of things that I have to follow through. I have completed those.
There were no building permits issues for any of those things that would carry, it says right here, overall would characterize the building to be in poor condition. Some of the more obvious items needing replacement and or repairs may include new roof, no issue, no building permit was issued. Repair and upgrades roof framing, no building permits were issued. Manufacturer's trusses, no building permit was issued. Standard, substandard walls reinforcing, no building permit was issued. Go ahead, ma'am.
I would like for you all to refer to the page 2 of the engineering report. And I would like you all to follow the recommendation of the engineer.
Right.
The recommendations reads as my recommendation would be to determine if the project is feasible financially, and that is a responsibility that I take on, and I'm committed to it. Second one, they said you need to complete the as-is build plans. The overall evaluation, the structural integrated structure should be made, and to make sure that you continue with any of the architecture reports, as-is build plans should be prepared that describe the overall dimensions and structural components of the building. That was the first step in order for us to proceed further with anything. And that was completed and was submitted to the city.
So I'm going to call a pause here. I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, it just was brought to my attention that this witness was not sworn in, so we just need to swear her in. Madam Clerk.
You raise your right hand, please.
Uh-huh.
Do you solemnly state under penalty of perjury that the evidence that you shall give in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Correct, yes.
Thank you. Sorry for the interruption.
No problem.
Go ahead, ma'am.
So in order for, so we met, if I want to kind of take a step back, in order for me to kind of complete this project, as I said, in the month of June, the violation which was given to me was all repairs. And then eventually when we started work on those repairs, we got to know that we need to make sure that it is complete restoration project. The scope of the project turned out from being just a repair of saying that take out this electrical wires or fix the faucet or fix the, just the doors, etc., to a complete remodel project. The scope of the project has enhanced 3,000 times I can describe as since we started off with the violation, quote unquote. And that was my argument when I had the first year hearing, saying that we are still considering this as a violation, but this right now, the property is to the studs. Majority of the properties have been clearly all sheet rock has been taken off, roof has been taken out, all the garbage junk has been taken out. Now it is to the studs. And as per the engineering report, if we have to restore the project, we have to take certain steps. The first step is to complete the as-is build plan, then the architecture diagrams, then the civil engineer or the structural engineer will stamp it again, and then we go through the permit process for the entire restoration. I have taken the step to complete the as-is build plan, and I did approach the city for a permit for the roof so that we can continue the roof while other things are happening. And my permit was not even, our GC was not even able to fill a permit form at the front desk. He was turned away saying that he cannot submit a permit form and we have to wait for the architectural design. Now I have that ready right now.
Okay.
I would like to bring that and share it with you all.
Sure. Yeah. Sorry, David, you can't hear that. I see this.
Yeah, I'm not sure procedurally how appropriate this is, but we're not under any strict rules of evidence here, Mr. Mayor. But if I could ask a clarifying question for the council's benefit, for the hearing body's benefit, Ms. Shekar, are you appealing the city manager's decision claiming that no public nuisance exists at the property, or are you simply asking this council for more time to comply?
I am following the procedure and the protocols the city has been directed me to take in order for me to completely bring the building under compliance. Right now, as of today, I have sent many multiple GCs. I did take my owner permit to get the work done once. And after that, I have not given any permit for me to continue the work on the property. The city has given me 10 or 15 steps to take before they can give me the permit. And I'm in the process of those steps. This is a matter of, this is an example that I gave. Maybe it's not an appropriate example to use it here, but this is like they said, okay, make a baby, but they're asking them to make a baby like 3 months. That's not going to happen. A time is required in order for us to deliver the property in the condition the city expects. And these are the documentations is needed from an architectural review, structural engineer review, civil engineer review. None of the violations that has been listed there as a violation really talks about the underlying facts or the underlying effort required for me to comply with those. It is time consuming because it's a complete restoration project. My property is right now into the studs as the picture depicts.
So we're still back to the same issue.
So I'll just submit with that question so that council knows that these, I'm not sure that staff's even been presented with these documents at this point. And so it just gets a little bit messy in terms of the scope, again, bringing us back to what the city manager considered at the time of his hearing decision is what is on appeal today, not necessarily what Ms. Shekar's plans are moving forward, although the council may find that relevant, as I've said before, to anything they might want to modify.
So we go back to, the problem is, ma'am, that you haven't done your due diligence in a timely fashion. And that we are here to protect the citizens of the city of Clearlake. And that place has been an eyesore for years now. And you were made aware of that. And you should have been aware of that when you bought the building.
I understand, and I take that
So
responsibility.
but there's no excuse to not doing your due diligence buying the building, ma'am. That's not of our concern. Do you understand that?
But the city has the authority and the power to deny a permit for me, to give a permit for me. And
That's not what we're talking about, ma'am.
Without permit, I cannot do any work. A stop order has been given on the property.
You have had ample time.
I understand.
So unless there's other people in the council, let's continue on with your presentation, ma'am.
Yes, please. So I just want to make sure that maybe I'm kind of switching and swatching on the objective of this meeting. If the objective of this meeting is just for the appealing the hearing, let me complete that 1 second, Mr. Attorney. Hearing, then I would say, yes, the hearing was not fair. The reason because of some of the things that I brought up right now, saying that on April 12th, if I remember the date, I could be misstating some of the clear dates in here, but whenever I had that hearing with Mr. Flora, I mentioned to him about the engineering report being done and the as-is build plan was shared with them. And every month I complete my monthly inspection, which has got the detailed pictures of the property, which has been shared with the city, with the code inspector officers, code enforcement team. And when I went to the meeting, none of those pictures were even considered to state that what improvement has been done. I have clearly submitted out of 20 lists, what is that I have already completed. And I have it in other document in the evidence packet in the Excel spreadsheet. One of the violations was, for example, take out the sump coolers, gas tanks, all those things have been taken out. Clean the property, I've cleaned the garbage out. Fence the property, I've fenced it. Secured the building, I've secured it. Put the camera up, I put the camera. Take out the unsafe materials, deteriorated deck, etc. All those things have been taken out. It is to the studs, to the minimum of what I can really do without these kind of plans. And these kind of plans is extremely time consuming. And also the availability of the engineer to get my work done has been a challenge as well, the civil engineer availability. So it takes time for me to get a plan to complete the remaining work. The remaining work are replace the entire roof. But the violation says it's repair the roof, but it is not a repair anymore. It's a replace the entire roof. I'm trying to emphasize on that because the scope of work has enhanced and changed since the violation was given to me. Then the second one, repair the floor. Repair the floor is not like I can get somebody from the Home Depot and repair it. I have to get the plans to replace and solidify the floor structurally before I can do anything. So it is not a simple violation of me not repairing it. Same thing with the ceiling. You can see some of the evidences that Mr. Lambert shared. Those are the evidences from before I bought it. Now you can see some of the pictures that I shared. You don't see any deteriorated material or anything of that sort, which is hanging from the roof, etc. Those have all been taken out. I finished the air quality inspection report because in order for me to take out the unwanted materials from the building per se, I need to have the asbestos inspection done. That took a while, about 6 to 7 weeks for me to get an inspector.
When was that report finalized, and do we have a copy of that?
Yes, it has everything I have done so
Where
far.
is it?
It is in the evidence book.
Is it? Okay.
Yes, I can get the evidence.
Is it in there? Which exhibit was it?
If you refer to
Exhibit, which exhibit is it? Page. I'm getting tired of this. All right.
I don't know if they have included that in here or not, but I have a copy of it.
Did we get a copy of that, Mr. Allen?
Could you be more specific about
Yeah, asbestos. As-built.
as-built drawings?
Yes.
I
I see the as-built drawings. I'm talking about asbestos removal.
I don't know if it's in the document, but that was sent to us sometime back, the asbestos report.
Okay, so it's cleared up now?
It was a report on the asbestos that existed. To my knowledge, there was never any remediation work done.
All right, thank you. Okay, any more? Madam Rupa, do you have any more stuff that you want to tell us while we should?
I wonder as to why the air quality report is not there in the evidence, but it has been submitted to the city. And Mr. Flora commented saying that
We're talking about the asbestos permit, not the air control.
that's the air quality report. Is we have to finish the inspection before we can come up with a plan to remove them. And the report states that the asbestos exists only in the mastic of the floor.
Okay.
And it's not necessarily
Was
true
that
that I have to
completed before
remove it.
Was that completed before the meeting?
Yes, it was completed in August of last year after I bought it, August, September, if I remember the date properly.
Flooring that contained the asbestos was removed?
No, the air quality
So it's not
inspection
completed.
report has been completed.
Yeah, well, we talk more than just a report, the actual
Correct.
removal of it. So please continue on with your argument and
But-
we'll get back to that. Thank
Okay,
you.
so the asbestos report states that wherever the material is there, if I have to touch that to kind of remodel, then I have to remove it. But now when I'm still working with the architecture plans, those things will come as part of the overall project. If I'm going to remove those things, or my GC would say that it's okay for us to kind of use the, lay over the existing ones, and it's part of the process. It's part of the restoration project, but right now we're still in the planning phase.
Okay, continue on if you have anything
Okay,
more to say.
so I just also want to kind of mention that when I want to kind of emphasize the importance of city stating that there has been code violations, and also city kind of trying to assess the property as being an eyesore, and also cities mentioning that certain steps have to be taken in order for me to complete it, and they're not actually looking at the actual effort required for this project to move on. They're underestimating the effort, and they're pushing me and rushing me to asking me to get that done, get this whole thing done in a short period of time when things have unfolded since I bought it in June of last year.
Okay, that's your final argument, ma'am?
I mean, based on your questions and based on your thought process, I've got additional things to share.
All right, thank you. We'll open a public hearing on it now. process?
I think technically you've already opened the public hearing, but if it's up to the mayor's discretion, if you want to insert a request for public comment at this time or.
Is there anybody from the public that wants to make a comment on this? Anybody on Zoom, Madam Clerk?
There is one hand raised on Zoom, Elizabeth Larson.
Okay. Go ahead, Elizabeth.
Good afternoon. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we
hear
can.
you.
Okay, thank you. So I was curious, I'm a little unclear about what was presented during the hearing officers hearing in April. Were the plans that Ms. Shakar just showed you, those big pieces of paper, were those among the things that were presented in April, or are those new? And I guess my other question is, what is needed right away in order to clear things up that would allow her to get permits? Or is this project in the city's determination just past the point of no return?
So I would suggest that being as though this is public comment, if that's the extent of the questions, the board can take that and refer those questions to staff. If the appeals board wants direction on those, I just would caution engaging in back and forth on public comment.
Great. Thank you, Elizabeth. I will ask the question of staff.
Okay, so I guess that's me. So the answer to the first question is no, the plans were not part of the hearing officer's appeal hearing. And I might need to have someone give me a summary of the second part of the question. Could we have Elizabeth restate that?
Elizabeth, can you restate that last part of the second question?
Sure. Sorry about that. What right now would she need to do that would allow her to go ahead and get a permit? I mean, I'm wondering if this process kind of has even stopped the permitting, but I mean, is there anything as far as if she gives you this plan, is she able now to go ahead and try to get the roofing permit? Or is it just, I mean, is all of this just kind of at a halt now?
Well, okay, so.
Go ahead, Mr. Flora.
I mean, the way to cure the violations or stop enforcement action of the violations is by acquiring a building permit. And from the very beginning, the requirements of getting a building permit for work on the building was submittal of engineered plans. And so that's what it would take to cure it. In fact, to give you just a little bit more information related to the appeal hearing, the first one, that was shared again. In fact, I agreed to hold off on making a decision for 2 weeks to see if a contract with an engineer architect could be put into place and a contract with an actual general contractor could be put into place. Neither of those things happened within the 2-week period, so I issued my decision.
I object.
So, excuse me?
I object that. I object that statement from Mr. Flora.
Okay. Can object with.
Yes, Mr. Flora, at the conclusion of the meeting, he clearly stated to me saying that you have to get a general contractor in place within 15 days. And I did that. I appointed Tony Burdessa for the job. And I sent a letter, and there is a letter from Tony Burdessa, which is in the package that is in the evidence.
We saw the letter. A letter is not a contract.
I understand, but when you guys say contract, you are saying that we have to share the contract between me and the general contractor stating that we are engaged. How does it matter? That's my business between me and my GC. If a contractor says that he's working with me, that should be sufficient enough information that I have my team working with me. And if you can look at the document there, I have an architect whom I've paid and he's working on my architecture. So if you guys want to see the contract of mine, I feel it's my personal information because it'll have financial information and other things that I deal with the business. But I can share that with you all if that is what you all are looking for. But I think we should be focused on the project and the evidence and the progress that I've made, rather than trying to think through that, hey, she has 3 GCs. so far or 4 GC so far, because that was a heartburn of Mr. Flora, saying that why do you have so many GCs?
I see the letter from Tony
Correct. And Mr.
Bordessa, and that is just a statement letter.
Miss-
There's no contractual terms in that. So there's no contract, ma'am.
Yeah, let me state
Okay,
that.
thank
Mr. Burdessa came to the city to take the permit and he was turned away the same day.
Why was he turned away?
Because they said that he can't even apply for the permit. The reason because they want to have the engineering stamped plan for
Right.
the roof when the roof is just a replacement. And he's an experienced and licensed general contractor.
But it was stated before that we needed engineering plans.
For the
We're
overall
very
project.
clear. And now is the first time you show up with engineering plans.
It takes
If we go
time.
back to the hearing, that's what we're going to go back to. So Dean, could you please restate what we're deciding here? So we're clear.
Sure. Mr. Carr, this is your opportunity to present to the council what you believe was flawed with Mr. Flora's decision in denying your appeal. And council, just to remind, kind of bringing this back, again, we're bleeding over into more of a request for more time and continuance and evidence of what Ms. Shekhar has or has not done, and we're stepping away from whether Mr. Flora was appropriate in denying the appeal with the information he had at that time, finding that the property posed a public hazard.
All right. The public hearing is closed. No more public comments, Madam Clerk?
I have a comment to make if I may.
In a minute, ma'am.
Thank you.
There are no further hands raised on the Zoom, Mr. Mayor.
Right, I'll bring it back here. You wanted to make one more point?
Yes, so it just skip my thought process. So if it is just about the hearing of Mr. Flora, I shared with him multiple evidences, including the facade design that I have designed for the property, which was shared with him. And I've shared the as-is built plan and all the evidence that has been completed so far. And even after seeing the evidence, the hearing was made not to accept my appeal, to give me the practical required time to restore the project. If they're rushing through to restore this project in 2 months and turn away all my general contractors not giving the permit and making it hard in the process, then they have to give me the time for me to follow through the process. It has to be one way or the other. It cannot be their way all the time. The reason because it has been so far that way.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll bring it back here. Any more discussion? Go ahead, Mr. Flora.
I mean, I don't want to get into a back and forth, but I feel it's important to clarify one point because the statement was made that what I just mentioned to the council was not at all correct. And so Ms. Shakir stated that I gave her at the appeal hearing 15 days to have a contract with a general contractor and an engineer. And that's not true. And you're welcome to listen to the hearing and verify the recording of the hearing and verify that. What I did say is that I would hold off on making a decision for 2 weeks. And I would encourage her to do those things as a testament to being able to move forward with the project. And based on that information being provided, may impact my decision on the hearing. So, that may be a small clarification, but I think we need to be accurate.
Okay, very good. Bring it back to the council. Councilman Kramer looks like he's got some comment.
Yeah. Mrs. Shakar, at the beginning of this, I was hoping that you would succeed. I've been
Understand.
tried to share my advice with you as far as I could. And I think one of the last things that I strongly suggested to you was that you get the structural engineered plans. And that's consistent with what Mr. Flora has said, what I see in all the evidence through here. Yet you don't have those and you don't have any date for those. It can only go so far and it's been nearly a year now. And Mr. Mayor, let me finish, please. Yes. Oh, that's the only thing that's really going to encourage me to try to help you, if we were to give you more time. You've got to show us show me that you have those engineered plans or are very close to having them. We've got reports from Mr. Bennett in November, but those are not engineered plans. And they even said, we talked about it then, and yet you still don't have them. So how can I continue to?
I understand.
Okay.
May I speak? Okay, thank you. Yes, I agree that I don't have the engineering plan of what they're asking for to do, but I'm showing progress every month, every 15 days towards that, because it's all dependent upon the required documentation the engineer needs and an architect needs to complete the plans. And that's what I have been sharing with the city. Every time I finish one deliverable, one artifact towards that, I'm sharing it. If I didn't want to restore this, I wouldn't be spending money or energy on finding the people and making progress on this. Finding the resources in Clearlake and their availability within that time frame of what city is looking for has been extremely challenging. For example, I engaged with Hopkins Constructions to kick off the project, and they kicked off the as-is build plan. It took from all the way from mid-December till end of February just to finish the as-is build plan. Without the as-is build plan, architects cannot do anything. Okay.
Your credibility is becoming a little thinner to me, to be very honest. You asked for a permit to put a roof on before we even know whether the foundation, the floors, and the walls are sound. And that takes that engineered plan, that structural engineer plan. And even in the November letter here, it says exactly that you need to have those things inspected. And again, get the structural engineer's plan.
Correct.
But yet you're still talking about that. So, I mean, your credibility is getting thin here.
Okay, but Madam, this is the time for the council to deliberate here.
Okay.
And when we want to ask you another question,
all right.
we'll let you know.
Okay.
Councilwoman Overton.
Okay, so one of the problems I have is I see a lot of sheetrock damage and stuff like that, which is repairable. What I don't see here is from our side of our staff is pictures of anything that is actually structurally wrong. Sheetrock is replaceable. The boards that I'm seeing here, most of those are okay. So why is it that we consider this structurally unsound?
Yeah.
I mean, where's the proof from our side that this is structurally unsound? Sheetrock is all replaceable. Things can be cleaned. So what I'm looking for here, and I don't see it anywhere, but yet I can see in her pictures that these look fine after she's cleaned it up. So where is our pictures of the structural part of this that we're saying is deemed unsafe?
If you look at Bennett's engineering letter, it says pretty.
Find out where is that at?
It's page 65. Yeah, in your. I mean, it's possible overspan members were observed. I mean, there are really structural issues there. I mean, this says trusses need to be evaluated for adequate load capacity to make current code standards. Substandard wall stud spacing, substandard shear reinforcement, anchor bolting, and deteriorating stud were noted throughout. I mean, it's pretty severe. It says deteriorating floor system, potential overloaded beams and girders may need to be upgraded and or replaced. It goes on with limited observation. It appears to be the foundation needs to be in reasonable good condition. However, more inspection will be required to determine the accuracy. None of those things were addressed.
But it doesn't say that it's unsafe to go into and repair.
Well,
nothing says that to me. So to me, it's not, I'm just giving the point of that there's no structural engineer on our side that says that you cannot enter and repair these things. Is that correct?
That is correct. We do not do engineering reports on private property. And even if there was structural issues, I mean, commercial properties have to have these type of plans, whether there's structural problems or not. And, we are relying on our certified building inspectors including Mr. Lambert and others, to make that determination on properties with the expertise and training that they have.
Okay, any additional comments? Councilman Claffey, you have any additional comments?
Not any additional questions, I think. Well, I'll say no at the moment.
Vice Mayor Purdock, any additional comments? Okay. We'll bring it back to council and have a decision here. First, we need to.
I do have one more question, Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Okay, go ahead.
Again, Mrs. Checkler. How long? When could you have engineered plans, structural engineers plans?
4 to 6 weeks. It'll be sooner than that. I'm just buying additional time just so that I don't blow off my plan.
And this is with Mr. Bennett?
It's going to be with my architect and his civil engineer.
Not Mr. Bennett.
Mr. Bennett, after my report, he moved to Arkansas. Mr. Bennett has moved to Arkansas, so he's not in the area anymore. So that's why he has referred me to this architect. And then I have reached out to Ian Hoff. I'm in conversation with Ian Hoff. So you will, by next 4 to 6 weeks, I'll have the remaining plans done by my architect with the civil engineer stamp completed. And we'll be applying for the roof permit if the city agrees. If not, I'm going to hold that off till everything is done and I'm going to submit those together.
So again, I might remind us that we have to either deny the appeal or grant the appeal.
We can add.
Stipulations.
Mr. Pucci, what did you say about adding our comments or recommendations?
Yeah, I think the cleanest way to do this, if council or the mayor don't want to afford any last opportunities for closing remarks or brief closing remarks by staff or by Ms. Shekar, would be if a council member is inclined or a hearing body member is inclined to make a motion vis-a-vis upholding or overturning the appeal. Once that is done, then council can certainly provide direction to staff if they would like in terms of timing on enforcement or opportunities or things of that nature. So I think procedurally, the cleanest thing to do would be to take the issue that's before the body here today, is make a decision on the appeal, and then to provide staff with any direction that the body wish to.
Okay, ma'am, your last chance.
Okay, so last comments on?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I kindly request the honorable council members to give me additional time, practical time required to get all my structural engineering plans completed, architecture plans completed, apply for the permit, because that has been a mandatory requirement from the city. Without that, they have not given me any permit so far in order for me to perform. With no permit, I cannot perform. And I'm making all the effort to make sure that I'm putting the right steps in place to get to those. And I want to kind of state one more obstacles in the way that I want to kind of clarify here. My architect would like to know what I'm going to do with the property in order for them to give me the complete structural engineering report. And that's a restaurant. So he would like to know whether I'm going to keep it as a Chinese restaurant or a Brazil steakhouse. I'm just stating why. I understand. I understand. So I'm in the process of trying to make sure that I nail down on the requirements for them, and that will be done, and the reports will be ready in 4 to 6 weeks for me to get the permits.
Right. Thank you. All right.
Any final comments by Mr. Palmer or staff?
Yes, I'll make them brief. Section 10-3.5 subdivision C of the Clearlake Municipal Code now vests the council with the determination of whether the hearing officer's order should be upheld, modified, or overturned, and adopt a resolution as to the findings and the work, the time within the work that is required to be performed. I would ask that the council uphold the hearing officer's decision because the property is a public nuisance, and that's the salient point here. It doesn't matter what happened in 2018. Doesn't matter what happened in 2019. What matters is what Ms. Shekar has done or not done since she took over the property almost a year ago. It was a property nuisance back then. It's a nuisance now. and it needs to be abated, either by getting it corrected or getting it demolished. And the city has lost faith in Ms. Shakar getting it corrected. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Where anybody wants to make a motion?
So just for clarity's sake, Mr. Palmer's point regarding resolution, it's likely that we will need to bring back a final resolution. However, if the inclination, you can, Mr. Mayor, you can direct me if I'm wrong and I can reword this, but perhaps some suggested language if the motion is, anticipated motion is to uphold the city manager's decision, would be a motion to deny the appeal and affirm the hearing officer's December decision of May 9th, 2022, upholding the order to abate and finding that the abatement is necessary due to the public nuisance that currently exists on the property.
Is that the new wording of the motion?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
You can just ask for
Somebody want to make that motion?
Where is that?
So may I ask?
I can just read it in the record again, and we can have a motion in a second on that statement.
So
If that's the motion council wants.
And then
Then
after, we can make direction, sorry.
Yeah, that's fine. Let's make a motion decision, and then as the code indicates, the council is going to need to, or the appellate body is going to need to indicate a time frame for compliance if the council did not want to deviate or keep the original compliance deadline indicating that it already passed. But if the council is inclined to provide an amount of time, that we would need to build that into the resolution. And so that would be separate direction that the council could give.
So first the motion and then we can.
Sure.
Okay.
So I would so move.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilwoman Overton as presented by Mr. Dean Pushy. We have a second. We have a second by Councilman Kramer. We'll go to our vote. So the vote is to deny the appeal now. Okay. Voting. Okay, Madam Clerk, when
I
we're
just
ready.
say
Still
aye.
haven't quite-
I can't get mine up there. Can I just say aye publicly? Since I made the motion,
Excuse me?
I can't get my voting thing.
Voting thing. Okay, we'll do a voice vote. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Overton,
Aye.
Councilmember Kramer,
Aye.
Councilmember Claffey.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Purdock,
Aye.
Mayor Slutin.
Aye. All right, motion passed. We want to consider, give Rupa some additional time?
Like
Okay, go ahead,
to
Matt.
suggest that we give her till the, exactly. You got to follow through with this because we're being lenient here. And let's see, when,
I would say August
till
1st.
four. Yeah, okay, August 1st was good, and if not completed, and that gives you plenty of time to get everything
That's a
done.
Monday.
Yeah.
And we have, if we need to. So, man, you have till August 1st to get your plans in
And then I,
To be clear,
and to be
Mr.
complete.
Mr. City Manager, can you state what exactly it is that is required as far as those plans go, the
Engineering.
structural engineers? plans?
Engineered plans.
and the permits pulled, correct?
Just so it's absolutely crystal clear.
Well, yeah, I think we would go back to what the initial order was back in February, which was to have a building permit issued. And Ms. Shakir should know that in order to get a building permit issued, she's going to have engineered plans stamped by an engineer and architect before that can be issued. And I don't know if anyone else has any other things that need to be addressed, but from my perspective,
First
that's
step
what it
is
would take
those.
to have
She
that
brings
issue.
those to you, then you would feel that she's ready to move on to.
Well,
pulling
it's
the
not
permits.
about my feelings. It's about
No, no,
whether
I'm
she
not,
meets
no,
the
as
intent
your
of the code.
expertise,
Yeah.
should I say, not your feelings per se. But if she does those, then, and pulls the permits, then things can move forward on the building.
It looks like Chief White may have something to add.
Chief White, please.
I just have a question, but you can continue with that. But I have a question on behalf of staff.
We just upheld the hearing officer's decision.
So I
And
guess,
now we're
Giving her a little
avoiding
bit of
that.
time before you follow through with it.
Well, I mean, what you're doing now is upholding the decision, but basically directing me not to sign a contract to abate the nuisance until after August 1st. And
Right.
if prior to August 1st, there's a building permit issued for renovation of the building, then, I don't sign the contract.
Correct.
I'm sorry, I will note that the language of 10-3.5 specifically, as Mr. Palmer read it, indicate that the council shall adopt a resolution setting forth its findings and ordering the abatement of all public nuisance conditions in the manner and means specifically set forth in the resolution. This resolution shall set forth a time within the work shall be completed by the owner. So just as a procedural note, so that we don't end up with multiple future appeals, this decision is final by the council. So I think that it would benefit staff if an outside date was selected that maybe staff can chime in for, because it's above my pay grade in terms of what timeframe would be to bring the property fully into compliance and abate all conditions on that property, rather than the council as an appellate body micromanaging the interim steps and having to determine at that point whether the plans are good, plans are bad, plans are incomplete. I think that it would benefit the city to have, which is an ultimate, this property must be brought into compliance by.
Just to be fair, I see your point. To be fair, we need to then give her a certain period of time to actually construct and do the work. So the certificate of occupancy can be issued. Is that what we're getting at?
I'm of course open to direction on this. From my perspective, that's very problematic to go down that route. And if she is able to obtain a building permit by the deadline, I think we would just fall back on the standard things that we have in place, where if she has a building permit and doesn't have an inspection in 6 months, then the permit is revoked. And then we would again begin code enforcement actions because it remains a public nuisance and there's violations. But
Right, then you would follow through with the abatement.
Okay.
I guess, I mean, I don't know from a legal perspective, if the permit's issued, the permit is expired or revoked for inaction, and we have to do new notices of violation. I mean, my assumption, without being the legal person here, is that we probably would have to start the process all over again as far as the abatement.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, chime in.
Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. I understand what Mr. Pucci is saying, and I think it has some merit. The problem is that there's so many moving parts in this case that it's hard. I mean, we could put an outside 1-year completion date, but that'll just stop the proceedings for that period of time. I think it would be better to move in increments. My suggestion would be that Ms. Shakar have submitted engineered plans, get them approved, get everything approved. There could be always go back and forth with corrections on plans. I've seen it many, many times, but get the plans approved and get building permits in order issued by the August 1 date. If she misses that, then the city manager can sign the contract. If she hits that mark, then as the city manager said, we'll just go into our normal watching of the inspection proceedings and doing inspections, correction letters, things like that. And if at any point Ms. Shakar falls off that treadmill, so to speak, we would have to set up a new abatement proceeding at that point and start at square one.
Okay, is all the council agree with that August 1st?
Yeah, yes, that's.
Mr. Claffey, does that sound?
Okay.
All right.
I'll let you guys talk.
So since Mr. Palmer disagreed with me, then we can direct Mr. Palmer and staff to direct that, to prepare that resolution for the council.
It seems like just punishment.
All right, you have till August 1 to put things in. I'm sorry to say that your performance so far in getting plans and follow directions by staff is horrible. So get somebody professional to do this. You're not a professional in doing this, ma'am.
I understand.
Thank you. All right.
I have a question for staff.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and the council. Staff will need direction on how to handle the rest of the property. For example, today, there's weeds all up in front of the property. Your council passed a vacant commercial building ordinance which she referred to numerous times throughout the presentation, which requires maintenance of the property. So I need direction from my staff. Are we to be enforcing that there? Do we continue to let that go and wait till August 1st to bring out a weed whacker and weed whack it? The other direction that we need is your council adopted an ordinance that prohibits boarding of a building beyond a certain period of time. We're going to be approaching that timeline where the boarding would have to be removed. So are we to also not follow that ordinance as well and wait until this August 1st deadline? If you could answer those two questions, we would appreciate the guidance.
Well, I don't believe that those things would be impacted at all by this decision. And if those violations exist, then the normal process with violations and citations, if appropriate, would be followed.
Thank you.
So,
All right.
so you should weed whack the property and
Yeah, I will take care
Go
of the
get the window
weeds,
then.
definitely. I'll clean
All
it up.
right.
One last question, Mayor. For the boarding permit, I have applied for boarding permit and the renewal has been denied.
Okay.
I can
well,
take it offline with them.
you
but-
take it up with Mr. Flores.
Okay.
All right. Let's see. That's the end of this hearing.
Oh, thank you so much for.
Meeting
the rest. I
adjourned.
appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Palmer.